It's 11:11. Spring season in the year 2026 is well underway. Life is beginning to blossom once more, and you can blossom with it. Spring arrives quietly at first. It rarely announces itself with great ceremony. Instead, it comes through subtle signs, a softer breeze, a slightly longer afternoon, the sound of rain tapping against the windows rather than snow piling up against them. The earth begins to loosen its grip on winter. Trees that once looked lifeless reveal tiny buds. Grass that seemed dull and forgotten starts to turn green again. Birds return, carrying songs that sound like reminders rather than performances. Spring does not rush. It unfolds gently. There is something deeply comforting about this season because it reflects a truth that people often forget. Renewal doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be patient. It can be gradual. It can happen in small shifts, in quiet moments, and in changes so subtle that they are only visible when you pause long enough to notice them. Spring teaches that life does not stay frozen forever. Even after the harshest winters, the world continues forward. Ice melts, rivers flow again. Seeds hidden beneath the soil begin to wake up. Nothing remains dormant forever. The beauty of spring is not simply that flowers bloom, it's that they bloom after surviving cold, darkness, and stillness. The blossoms are not separate from winter, they are made possible by it. The roots endured the freezing ground. The branches withstood heavy winds. The soil rested under frost. Spring is not the denial of hardship. It is proof that hardship does not last forever. There are seasons in life that feel like winter, times when everything seems paused, days when motivation feels distant, when energy disappears, when hope becomes quiet. During those periods, it can seem as though nothing is changing. Growth feels impossible. Progress feels invisible. Yet, nature reminds us that some of the most important transformations happen underground, unseen. A seed buried beneath the earth appears inactive. From the outside, nothing suggests life. Yet inside, there is preparation. There is quiet work happening beneath the surface. The seed softens, opens, and begins to change. It does not bloom instantly. It spends time becoming ready. People are much the same. Not every season of life is meant for visible success or outward achievement. Some seasons are for healing. Some are for rest. Some are for reflection. Some are for simply surviving. These quieter periods are not failures. They are necessary steps. The world often encourages constant productivity, endless motion, and visible accomplishment. But nature does not behave that way. Trees do not bloom all year. Fields are not always bright with flowers. Rivers are not always rushing. There are periods of stillness woven into the rhythm of life. Without those pauses, renewal would not exist. Spring reminds us that rest is not wasted time. it's preparation. When the first warm day arrives after months of cold weather, it feels different because it contrasts with what came before. Warmth matters more after a frost. Sunlight feels brighter after darkness. The return of color feels richer after gray skies. Perhaps that's why spring carries such emotional weight. It is not only a season of growth, it is a season of permission. Permission to begin again. Permission to believe that change is possible. Permission to let go of what no longer serves you. There is no rule that says you must remain who you were in a difficult season. Trees shed old leaves without apology. Flowers bloom without asking whether they are ready enough. Rivers carve new paths, even through stone given enough time. Nature does not hesitate to change. It moves with trust. Spring whispers that you are allowed to change too. Growth rarely looks perfect. Buds do not bloom all at once. Some flowers open early, others wait longer. Some trees regain their leaves quickly, while others take time. Yet no part of nature compares itself to another. A tulip does not rush to become a rose. A daffodil does not question whether it should bloom later. Everything unfolds in its own time. That timing matters. It's easy to believe that you should be further along, more accomplished, more certain, more healed, or more confident. It is easy to compare your pace to the pace of others. But spring reminds us that timing is individual. Growth does not happen on a universal schedule. A tree blooming in late spring is no less beautiful than one that blooms early. It simply follows its own rhythm. And you are allowed to follow yours. The rain of spring is also important. Many people focus on sunshine when they think of renewal, but rain is equally necessary. Rain softens the soil, it nourishes roots, it washes away debris, it prepares the ground for growth. Not all renewal feels joyful at first. Sometimes healing arrives through tears. Sometimes change requires release. Sometimes growth asks that you let go of things you once held tightly. Rain can appear gloomy, but it creates conditions for life. There are emotional rains too. Moments of sadness, reflection, uncertainty, or grief. These experiences do not mean you are moving backward. They may be part of your preparation. Spring does not reject rain, it welcomes it. In the same way, your life does not need to avoid difficult feelings to become meaningful. Strength is not the absence of emotion, it is the willingness to move through it. Consider how a garden grows. A gardener does not simply scatter seeds and expect instant beauty. There is patience involved. Soil must be turned, weeds must be cleared, water must be given consistently. Some plants thrive immediately, others require more care. Growth is not passive. You may need to tend your own inner garden. That might mean paying attention to your thoughts. It might mean creating healthier routines. It might mean learning to speak to yourself with more kindness. It could mean stepping away from environments that drain you. It may involve planting new habits, nurturing hope, and removing beliefs that no longer belong. A garden cannot flourish if it is never cared for, and neither can a person. Spring encourages attention. It asks you to notice what is beginning to grow within you. Perhaps there's a small spark of motivation returning after a difficult period. Perhaps there is a desire to create, to connect, to try again. Perhaps there's a quiet voice inside you that wants to believe in better things. Do not ignore those signs. They may seem small, but small beginnings matter. Every forest began with tiny seeds. Every river begins with a narrow stream. Every flower begins as something almost invisible beneath the soil. Life rarely transforms overnight. It changes gradually through repetition, consistency, and patience. Spring understands this. A single warm day does not create a season. It is the accumulation of many small changes. The angle of sunlight shifts. Temperatures rise little by little. Ice recedes slowly, and nature transitions gently rather than instantly. You are allowed to transition gently too. You do not need to reinvent your entire life in one moment. You do not need to become perfectly confident overnight. You do not need to have every answer. Progress can begin with something small. Opening a window, going for a walk, drinking more water, speaking kindly to yourself, or making one thoughtful choice. Small actions create momentum. Spring is built on momentum. It's built on repetition. Day after day, warmth returns, light lingers longer, and life reawakens. The same principle applies to people. Small moments of encouragement matter. Small acts of self-care matter. Small decisions to keep going matter. Over time, they become a season of change. There is also something deeply hopeful about the unpredictability of spring. Weather shifts quickly. One day may be cold, the next surprisingly warm. Clouds may gather, and then disappear. The season reminds us that uncertainty does not mean failure. Change can still be moving forward, even when conditions vary. Life is rarely linear. Some days you may feel strong, other days you may feel tired. Some mornings may bring clarity, while others bring confusion. Progress is not invalidated by difficult moments. A cloudy day does not stop spring from arriving. Neither does a difficult day stop your growth. One of the most encouraging aspects of nature is that it never questions whether it deserves renewal. The earth does not apologize for blooming. Trees do not hesitate to grow new leaves because winter was harsh. Flowers don't wonder whether they are worthy of sunlight. They simply respond to the season. Perhaps people can learn a lot from that. You do not need to earn your right to begin again. You don't need to justify your healing. And you do not need permission to hope. Renewal is not a reward reserved for the perfect. It belongs to anyone willing to continue. Spring also reminds us that beauty is not always loud. It often exists in quiet details. The gentle sound of rain against pavement, a patch of green emerging through cracked earth, the smell of fresh soil, the first warm breeze after months of cold, the sight of sunlight resting on new leaves. Encouragement can be like that too. It does not always arrive in grand speeches or dramatic moments. Sometimes encouragement comes through a conversation, a moment of rest, a memory, a song, a walk outside, or a simple realization that you are still here. There's great strength in continuing. The world often celebrates major victories, but many important achievements are invisible. Getting out of bed after a hard week, taking care of yourself when motivation feels absent, trying once again after disappointment, choosing kindness when bitterness would be easier. These things matter. Spring is made of small victories. A single bud appearing on a branch, a bird returning to a familiar place, a field beginning to turn green. Each sign is modest on its own, yet together they create a season. You may not always recognize how far you have come because growth happens so gradually. It is easier to notice dramatic change than quiet transformation, but small shifts accumulate. You are not the same person you were years ago. Experiences have shaped you. Challenges have strengthened you. Lessons have changed your perspective. Even pain can become part of wisdom. Spring does not erase winter, it grows through it. Likewise, your past does not disappear. It becomes part of the foundation beneath you. Difficult seasons may have taught resilience, patience, empathy, or perspective. They may have revealed strengths you did not know existed. This does not mean that hardship is easy or desirable. It simply means that difficult experiences do not have to define your future. New growth can still happen and will still happen. A tree with broken branches can still bloom. A garden neglected for years can still be restored. A path overgrown with weeds can still be cleared. Life remains capable of renewal. Spring also brings movement. Windows open, people walk more often, fresh air returns. There is an invitation to step outside, to notice the world again. Perhaps this is part of encouragement too, reconnecting with life. When winter lingers emotionally, it is easy to become disconnected. Days blend together. Routine becomes automatic. Energy narrows. But spring encourages engagement. Look up at the sky. Feel sunlight on your face. Listen to wind moving through the branches. Notice the sweet scent of the rain. These small sensory experiences can remind you that you are part of something much larger. Nature continues. Seasons continue. Life continues. And you are still moving with it. The arrival of spring is never guaranteed by appearance alone. In early March, trees may still seem bare. Grass will still look dull. Cold mornings can continue. Yet beneath the surface, change is already underway. This is an important reminder for anyone who feels stuck. Transformation often begins before evidence appears. You may not see the result of your effort. You may not feel fully renewed. You may still carry uncertainty or exhaustion, but change can already be happening quietly. Trusting that process requires patience. Patience is difficult because it asks you to believe in something you cannot fully see yet. But nature thrives on patience. Seeds do not bloom the day they are planted. Rivers do not carve valleys instantly. Trees do not grow overnight. Time matters. You do not need to rush your becoming. There is value in slow growth. In fact, some of the strongest things in nature develop gradually. Trees with deep roots withstand storms. Rivers shape landscapes through persistence. Mountains form over unimaginable spans of time. Strength built slowly often lasts longer. Spring also carries a sense of forgiveness. It does not dwell on what winter took away. It focuses on what can return. There may be regrets, missed opportunities, old mistakes, or seasons that did not unfold the way you hoped. But every year spring arrives without demanding perfection from the landscape. The trees are not punished for losing leaves. The earth is not criticized for becoming dormant. Renewal comes anyway. You are allowed to release harsh judgments of yourself. You are allowed to stop defining yourself only by what went wrong. You are allowed to believe that better days can exist. The arrival of spring is not loud, but it is persistent. It keeps returning year after year, despite storms, cold seasons, and unpredictable weather. That persistence carries a quiet lesson. Hope is not always dramatic. Sometimes hope is simply continuing. Hope is planting seeds even before you see flowers. Hope is opening curtains to let the light in. Hope is trying again. Hope is believing that what feels frozen now may not stay that way forever. Spring does not guarantee that every day will be warm. It does not promise that rain will disappear or that challenges will never come again. Instead, it offers something more realistic, evidence that change is possible. Even after the darkest months, life returns. Even after stillness, movement begins again. Even after long winters, there are blossoms. Perhaps encouragement does not mean pretending everything is easy. Perhaps it means remembering that difficulty is not permanent. Spring does not ask the world to transform overnight. It simply invites it to begin. Maybe that is all you need too. Not a perfect plan, not complete confidence, not certainty about every next step, just a willingness to begin. A willingness to believe that warmth can return. A willingness to trust that dormant parts of yourself may bloom again. A willingness to imagine that better days are possible. Spring stands as a reminder that renewal is not reserved for the lucky or the flawless. It belongs to every living thing willing to emerge from stillness. And that can include you. No matter how long winter has felt, there is still room for growth. No matter how tired you have been, there is still room for renewal. No matter how uncertain the future appears, there is still room for hope. The earth proves this every year. Cold gives way to warmth. Silence gives way to birdsong. Bare branches give way to leaves. Dark soil gives way to flowers. And spring returns again and again. And maybe that repetition is the most comforting truth of all. Life keeps offering another season, another chance, another beginning. Another reason to believe that what feels still and silent today may not remain that way forever. The world renews itself patiently. You can too. Good night.